Hello, my name is Joseph Mudau and welcome to JJM Leadership Conversation. At JJM Leadership Conversation, we aim at empowering you with a message of hope and also changing the leadership narrative. For we believe that all of us are leaders. You don't have to be occupying a particular position to be a leader, but you just have to solve those little problems wherever you are. Coming up for today, I've got a guest that is a management consultant, an author, and also a woman of the cloth, a pastor. And ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in your house, in this social media space, I want you to help me to welcome my guest for today, who needs no introduction. And my guest for today is Mantsha Pheeha. Mantsha Pheeha, ke a o leboga, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Joe, and hello to all the viewers at home.
Thank you for making time to join with us today, and I really appreciate you. And I wanted you to just greet our viewers at home, those that are watching, those that are going to be writing their comments on the comment box and sharing this video with others. How about you say Spedi re Spedi sa le teng na re le Gauteng?
Ka gae batho ka moka ba ba lebeletseng re a le dumedisha ka lebitso le matla la morena mophološi wa rena Jesu Kriste. Re a tshepa gore episode ya mamotla e tla le aga, e tla le thusha ebile le tla ithabela. Re leboga gore le na le rena.
Ke a o leboga ngwaneso for that, and as we continue with our conversation for today, I just want to encourage everybody that is watching at home that in this conversation, continue to share this message of hope with other people and encourage them to also watch this video. Mantsha, I want you to just introduce yourself to our viewers. I've indicated at the beginning that you're a management consultant, an author, and a pastor. Do you want to just add a little bit about yourself in there?
So I come from Limpopo. I grew up in Seshego. Originally, I come from Botlokwa. And I completed my matric at a ladies, an all-ladies Catholic school called Mudau. After that, I went to Wits. I did chemical engineering, which was quite challenging for me for some reason. After being an A student throughout my academic career, I really struggled at Wits. And then I finished my engineering, was a project engineer for about 3 years. And then after that, I joined management consulting, and I did management consulting at Deloitte for about 4 years, went to the IDC, did project management, finally went to government, Limpopo Provincial Treasury, where I was Chief Director for Infrastructure Management. And since I left in 2013, I've been an independent consultant. Wow. So in a nutshell, that's my career.
Wow, I think this is a very colorful career. For someone that is watching at home, Mantsha, trying to look at, okay, you're indicating that you're coming from Limpopo, Botlokwa for that matter, and now you are in Gauteng. You are supposed to be dealing with Wits University, and now you continue to hold those positions that are imperative as well into our country. What can you say to other young ladies that are also watching this video in encouraging them to go to school and also picking up these careers that are sort of male-dominated?
I think the most important thing that I can say to our young people is be flexible, be agile. So when I was in high school, I was an A student from the time I arrived in Standard 6 until I finished in matric. And I assumed that that was going to be my trajectory even at varsity. I was not prepared for failure. I was not prepared for academic failure. I was not prepared for social failure. And when those things hit me, they hit me very hard. And one of the messages that I constantly then shared with young people is a message that says, there will be failure. Failure is part of our lives. Correct. And not just failure, but loss. There'll be loss. You lose loved ones. There'll be relationships that you hope and pray that they will be in your life forever.
Correct.
And those will end. So you don't know what your journey is going to look like. Just with me, in my case, I had made a lot of assumptions as a young girl coming to Joburg about what my future and what my life is going to look like. But it didn't turn out that way. So the most important thing I think that I can say in preparing for a future for whether it's young girls or young boys is be flexible, be agile. When life hits you with challenges, develop within you that muscle that is able to bounce back and that is able to recover from a setback.
I love that, because most of the people that will be coming into the university, space, we had our own challenges. I mean, you will think about statistics 101, economics 101, those basics, they become your struggle. But of course, I think we needed to thrive and also work very hard in order for us to achieve our intended goals. But I want to just check, in your line of duty, what are the challenges that you have experienced, either as a young lady into that space or just as a professional? What are your day-to-day challenges that you experience in that space?
So funny enough, ever since you told me that I was coming to the show, I was thinking about my early engineering days. And I remember one particular day when I was climbing a tank, like literally climbing a tank. And I remember it was after lunch, and I was going to inspect the tank.
Okay.
And the contractors, it was during an expansion project at the Impala at the time, at Impala Platinum. And as I was climbing the tank, all the contractors were coming back from lunch. And I think 100 guys stood and watched me climb a tank.
I hope you never such a pretty late,
They were doing all sorts of things. And now I'm conscious. I'm a young girl. I'm very conscious about my body.
Yes.
I'm very conscious that guys, like you were saying, Bashapani fleet, yo, and I think those are some of the defining moments in my life where I did not take it personally. I did not think they were attacking me. I actually just laughed at them, say, oh, you okay, keep watching, I'm going up, I'm going to work. And I think sometimes what happens is, especially for us as women, when we enter male-dominated spaces, we end up being too conscious of our femininity. And that's not what's required in that space. Because remember, guys used to be alone in those spaces.
In that space, of course,
to the point that we had a project for putting in female change rooms, because they didn't have female change rooms.
Correct.
They didn't have female engineers. So in as much as it's a field for you as a woman, you also need to remind yourself that for the men as well, it's a foreign field. So my encouragement, even with being a pastor, it's the exact same thing. Being an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. That if you find yourself in an environment that is dominated either by people of a different color, by people of a different ethnicity, or by people of a different gender, it's very important for you to understand where revolution is required, or where you are just required as an individual to make sure that other people also feel comfortable around you. And if you are able to make that distinction, chances are you will win over people who assume that a certain space is not for you.
Wow. Very interesting. Let's talk about this one. Your journey now going back to Limpopo. You're going home now. You're going to be a chief director there. And in your home province, you are meeting some of the people that your peers, some of the people that you've gone to school with. What were the challenges, in particular, your home province? I don't see myself, yes, of course, we've got our careers and all that, but as a career person, I don't see myself going into my hometown or my backyard, trying to lead some of my fellow locals. But what were your challenges that you had to deal with in that space?
So, funny enough, in terms of my career, those 2 years in Limpopo, I treasure them. I hold them so dear. Yeah. When I was taking the decision, one, to go to government as someone who has always worked in the private sector, and two, not only to go to government. I came to Joburg in 1995 as a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And now I'm in my early 30s, I'm going back home for the first time.
Wow.
And even when I was in high school, I didn't live at home. I was at boarding school. So technically, I don't necessarily... At a social level, I don't even know my own people because I was never at home.
Okay.
So I arrive at work. People assume that I'm younger than I am. They assume that I don't have work experience. I don't have the qualifications
as well.
After some time, they actually learn that I do have the qualifications, and I'm older than they thought I was. So I remember in my team, so I was chief director. I had a couple of directors working for me. They had managers and officers. So one of the officers, one day when we were sitting, says to me, you know what? I worked with your mother.
Yeah.
And then he explains that he knows me when I was a child.
And he's your subordinate.
Yes, he's like 4 levels below me. Then he says, I worked with your mother. And then he describes that my mother was driving, I don't know if you remember the lab cars, I think of Venda, you
Yes,
also
correct,
had
yeah,
those
correct.
government cars. So my mother was driving a government car. So all the people who were living in Seshego, I think about 3 of them, they would come to our house and then they would travel with her to Limpopo from our house.
Correct.
And he says he remembers when they were coming to our house, he would find me there as a child. And one of the guys who was also a chief director at the time laughed so hard and said, so you worked with her mother and now she's your boss.
She's your boss.
She's your boss's boss's boss. And you know, so I mean, I was trying my best to say, we have to deliver work, but
correct.
I mean, you are from Limpopo, you know how we operate.
Of
that
course.
We respect people because they are elders. So I've always had that within me to say, I'm not going to respect you because of the position you hold at work. I will respect you because you are a human being first, but also I will also respect you because you are an elder. So I always showed them that respect. But I think they struggled to be led by someone like me.
Correct.
On many occasions, I remember they would refuse to come for training. They would refuse to come to meetings. And one day, I went to our legal counsel and I explained that I want this guy out of my team.
My team, yeah.
And the legal counsel said to me, you know what, Mantsha, I'm not refusing. I understand that this is insubordination. I understand where you're coming from. But just sit down and I want you to understand something. So this guy worked with your mom. Now he works with you. You are asking him to go to an Excel training. He used to be an inspector.
Wow.
He's struggling with the computer. You want him to go on an advanced Excel training. So I just want you to sit back and think about what you are asking him to do. Then I left, I went back and I decided, from that day onwards, I decided, you know what? Let me not ask some of the people in my team to do the technical stuff.
Okay.
I will hire the younger people.
Correct.
Techno savvy. They will do the technological stuff. These guys, I will find a way maybe to use them with site visits, etc. And at a certain level, I just have to accept that some of them are waiting for retirement.
Wow.
It's not his fault. It's not my fault because the job that they were employed for to be inspectors is now obsolete. It doesn't exist anymore.
Correct.
And lastly, 2 things. My father would just come.
Don't tell me he was working there.
No, he wasn't. He would just come to the office.
Okay.
And
Just
then
to check it on his
He
dot.
would find the security guard and he would say, I'm here to see the GM.
Yeah.
And the security guard would say, which GM?
Yeah.
GM, Mantsha Pheeha. Then
Yeah.
the security guard would say, I don't know. You don't know? She's the GM. You don't know your boss?
Yeah.
And one day I was in a meeting and received a call, your uncle is here. And my uncle is sitting there. It's like, no, my watch is broken.
Hey.
Come and fix it.
So
My family, they were proud to have me there.
Of course.
But at the same time, I think the boundaries, the fact that this is at the workplace,
Correct.
to them, they were just so proud and they wanted everyone to know that I'm their relative.
Correct.
So just managing the perception that people had that I was not qualified, demonstrating that I know what I'm talking about. I mean, when I was there, I had quite a number of flagship projects that I ran, covering a number of departments. And
let me hold you there. But so I love this one, and I want us to talk about this flagship program that you ran in Limpopo, especially just after our break. Just hold that thought. We're going to come back, but I want us to go. I want us to look at some of our commercials that we're going to show in this video.
The Monroe Press presents Black Sun, White Mother, written by Charlie Masara and Gail Vermeulen. In this book, Charlie Masara and Gail Vermeulen converted their personal experiences into an excellent work. This book will challenge and motivate you to rise to the occasion in internalizing diversity in your life and work. The reader is taken on a unique journey to unlocking the potential of diversity in the workplace, from the genesis of diversity in Chapter 1 right through to embracing diversity in Chapter 22. The strength of the book lies in its practical wisdom, expressed in succinct yet profound pieces of insight and advice. Order your personal copy online at monroeglobal.com or any leading bookstore near you.
Welcome back to JJM Leadership Conversation. I believe that you are also having your own takeaways out of this conversation and you are also empowered. Before we continue with with my guest. I want to talk a little bit about this book. It is a very beautiful book that you need to have. And the title of this book is called, Level Up? Creating an Extraordinary Career, written by Mantsha Pheeha. So it is a beautiful book. We're going to talk about this book as well. But if you want a copy, you want to order yourself a copy, please make sure that you just write you can inbox us, or you can just write on the comment box, request, this material is going to be something that is very useful in order for you to grow as a person and improve in your career journey. Do you want to experience a level up? Make sure you get yourself this copy. Now we continue with our conversation with Mantsha Pheeha, my guest for today. And I indicated to you at the beginning that she's a management consultant, an author, and also a pastor. Let's go back, Mantsha, talking about your flagship program in Limpopo a little bit, because I really have some extra things that I want to talk about. There is a particular topic, this topic that has been, sort of ignited by this book that we will also talk about. But I want you to talk about that project quickly, then we can come back to this second part.
So the reason why I went to Limpopo is I was asked as part of the Treasury to professionalize how we were doing our infrastructure delivery.
Okay.
But unfortunately, then 6 days into my new job as chief director, we went into section 101B, which meant as a province, we were
under administration.
So there's no nice way to put it. So literally, I'm hired, and 6 days into the job, we don't have powers.
Correct.
And as difficult as that time was, it gave me, I think, as a professional, as a chief director, and us as a treasury, an opportunity to hire skilled people who are qualified, to attract people into government who would not have thought of having careers, not only in government, but in provincial government.
Okay.
And then I think in the 2 years, maybe in the 18 months, because the first 6 months, I think I was trying to get my feet on the ground. In the 18 months that I was there, we then rolled out an infrastructure delivery management system across the province, which involved even other people who were not necessarily professionals, but we equipped them with the tools to be able to deliver infrastructure in a professional manner.
Correct.
Actually, I must go and check and see if they are still doing what
they're still doing what you taught them.
Yeah, well, sometimes when I see the roads, I think they are. Sometimes I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah, that's what we did when I was there.
All right. Then out of the blue, Mantsha, so we're talking about a book called Single and Loving It. What was in your mind when you were writing this book?
So it took me 10 years to write that book.
This one?
Yes. So when my first draft of that book says I'm turning 30 in a few months.
Okay.
And by the time I released that book, I was almost 40 years old. So being someone who came from the Catholic Church, when I joined Bazalwane, born-again people, charismatic people,
Yes.
I was shocked by the weight they put on marriage,
Okay.
and by how they did not recognize unmarried people.
Okay.
So I came from the Catholic Church where priests were not married, nuns were not married. So the most dedicated people in the church were people who were unmarried. Then I arrive in the charismatic space, and if you are not married, it's like you have leprosy. I mean, I remember, I could not believe it. They would make an altar call for people to get born again.
Yes.
They would make an altar call for people who
For the
have
single.
demons to come and be, and then they would make an altar call
For the singles.
people. I was like, do I have a demon? Am I not born again? So it pained me to see how even a lot of my peers ended up getting married, especially women, because they didn't want to be children forever.
Okay.
And for me, I think I was raised by very strong women, by a father who encouraged us to be our own people. So I never really saw marriage as something that puts a stamp on me, which maybe was a bad thing, because if I had done that, maybe I'd be married by now. So you see, I sabotaged my own self.
But while you're still on that, Mantsha, you know, when you're talking about your background at the Catholics, and you're also talking about, I come from the Dutch Reformed, so that's my background. So the interesting part about that was that you will always have sort of a two queues. There will be a queue for the ladies, or the section for the ladies, and there will also be section for males, whether it's young boys or the married people and all that. Maybe that's what they were trying to manage. that you don't feel the pressures that we feel in the charismatic churches, because in that space, yeah.
Yeah, during worship, we are kissing each other. So when you don't have any, I mean, I've been to certain churches where they said, go and sit with your family.
Partner or your family.
You know, and I came alone to church. Who must I sit with?
Correct.
So I think you are right to say in those churches, they actually, you don't feel out, because remember, other people are widowed.
Yes.
There
are many reasons, yes, of course. Yeah.
Other people, sadly, you are a woman, you're married, but you haven't seen your husband in 6 years. How is she?
Correct.
He's just gone. You don't know where he is.
Correct.
And every time when you come to church, it's that reminder, where is he? So for me, that's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book to say, when you're single, it doesn't mean something is missing in your life.
All right.
For me, as a 42-year-old, I still want to get married. But if I don't get married and I die not having been married, I don't think I will feel like Mudimu Ankolod. I won't feel like Mudimu disappointed me. It will just be a journey that I've taken.
That
in
you
the
had
same
to travel,
way,
yeah.
I want a Porsche and I don't have it.
Correct.
I may want a husband and not have it.
So now, I want you to just talk to the single women that are out there. Single women. And this is the camera that you're looking at, Mantsha. I want you to just give them a message of hope coming from this book, Single and Loving It.
So if you are single, especially when you are beyond a certain age, I think now in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, the most important thing I think that you need to realize is, one, there is no relationship, no man that can fill the void of purpose, or that can fill the void of a relationship with God. So sometimes what we are searching for is not so much marriage or having children or having a relationship. Sometimes what we are searching for is that part of ourselves that does not manifest because we don't know who we are yet.
Yes.
So instead of spending your life as a woman positioning yourself for marriage or positioning yourself for a relationship, rather pursue God and let him know. If you are like me and you have a desire to get married, let him, don't be ashamed to say, you know what, even when you are 63, don't be ashamed to say, I still want to get married.
Wow.
Let God know, but don't allow that desire to want to get married to stop you from living now.
Right.
So now I go on holiday, whether I go alone or with my friends, I'm not going to wait. These honeymoon destinations, I've been to them. I've been to Mozambique beaches, I've been to Zanzibar, I've been to, what's the famous one, Mauritius. I remember when I was coming back from Mauritius, the guy who was stamping my passport said to me, sister, which flight are you from? I said, Mauritius. He looked at me and said, sister, which Mauritius Uliwa? He was so shocked. So the challenge with us as women is we put a lot of, if I want to go somewhere nice, into a nice restaurant, I go. And now I'm used to it. I know if I'm going alone, I'll either take my laptop or I'll take my phone or I'll take my book or I'll ask a friend to come with me. But what frustrates us as single women is we are waiting for someone to come and take us where we can take ourselves.
Wow. We are waiting for someone to take us where we can take ourselves. What a way of concluding this part of the show. We're going to be going into a break, and after the break, we're going to conclude our conversation with Mantsha and go into a break.
COVID-19 is a new illness that can affect your lungs and airways. It's caused by coronavirus. This is a global pandemic which requires everyone to take responsibility in order to minimize the spread of coronavirus. It is now compulsory for all South Africans to wear a face mask in public even after the lockdown eases. If you cannot afford disposable face masks, you may have to make use of the cloth face mask. But what if you cannot sew one for yourself? Well, that's where Miss Price Fashion comes in. We can assist you with cheap and affordable reusable quality face masks. We produce 3 types of face masks: the pleated face mask, the nose curved shaped face mask, and the lace face mask. All these masks have 3 layers of fabric as proposed by the government. We have all sizes, including children's face masks. Our face masks start from as little as 25 Rand per mask. We also have special prices for bulk orders. To order your mask, please call the number on the screen. You can also place your order through our website, which is www.misspricefashion.co.za. You can also follow us on our social media pages. Thank you for your support and stay safe. God bless South Africa. Miss Price Fashion, your dress code, your signature.
Welcome back to JJM Leadership Conversation, and thank you for staying to watch our videos, and I'm hoping that you are learning something from my guest. My guest is still Mantsha Pheeha, a management consultant, an author, and also a pastor. And I want to conclude my conversation with her talking about a little bit about this book and also about her work as a pastor. And Mantsha, please just indulge us a little bit about this book, Level Up. And it's a beautiful book. I love the design, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So in as much as my career looks colorful and rosy, I always felt like I'm striving more than the average person when it comes to my career.
Okay.
I looked at other people and they looked like their careers are easier. So when I embarked on this book, I actually wanted to find out the people that on the outside, when you look at them, they look like their careers are easier.
Okay.
What is their secret? And I sat with, I think, around 8 people. I interviewed them and picked up a number of principles. And I think one of the things, and we spoke about it earlier, you and I, when we started, just before we started with the show, to say some people, their success is because someone picked them.
Oh, exactly.
And drove not only their career in one organization, but drove their career in an industry or in a country.
Correct.
So, and I think because most people don't share those things with the average person. So I wanted to elevate and take out those discussions that people have behind closed doors in boardrooms and bring them to the normal person on the street, to a person who will never be privy to a conversation that you have with your mentor, a conversation that you have with your coach. And I wanted to bring them out so that even other people can benefit from those conversations.
Okay. I just love it because you will realize that in the new normal, I will call it a new normal because I think before lockdown and what the challenges that we're experiencing with COVID-19, other people thought that things are much easier. But I think now you definitely need to be very, very different for you to thrive as a person, especially in this difficult time where the economy is shedding jobs and it's unable to create even new opportunities for people. But what is it that you, maybe just one principle that you may want to share with us from the book?
I think for me, the most important one is being intentional about managing your career.
Okay.
I think most people understand how to manage themselves in a job, but we don't know how to plan for a career that spends, in most cases, 40 years. How do you plan for a career like that? What do you study? How do you position yourself? What networks do you have to be in? So I think for me, when I finished varsity, I just assumed that this thing will happen on its own. And then when it doesn't happen on its own, you get frustrated. So I think now, when our kids come out of varsity or come out of tertiary, my expectation is that they would know that I have to manage my career. I have to be intentional about managing my career. There are certain spaces I want to be in. How do I ensure that I get into those spaces?
Wow. I love the principle, being intentional about your career. So to all our viewers at home, it is important for you to make sure that you are intentional about your career. Don't wait for someone to just come and give you the opportunities, but make sure that you are in control of your destiny. Of course, there are many challenges that job seekers are experiencing today, but if you are intentional, chances are opportunities will also come your way. Mantsha, as we conclude our conversation for today, I want to look at you being a pastor now. This chemical engineer, I don't know whether you were a comrade somewhere, but now we now have to call you Muruti. And how has been your journey? And in actual fact, when did you start ministry, especially full-time? What do you call it, full-time ministry, or do you call it just a ministry? Whatever it is, but when did you start?
So, funny enough, I started experiencing a sense of call when I was still in the Catholic Church, and I decided I'm going to be a nun, because as a woman in the Catholic Church, you can only be a nun. You can't be a priest.
That was the career.
So at that That's what I thought I was going to be.
Okay.
Then I come to Wits, I get born again. And then I realized that, women can be preachers. Then I identify that, that call
that was there.
It was a preaching call.
All right. Okay.
So then from the age of 17, then I started preaching. And I started preaching by accident. They were looking for 4 preachers. They chose 3 guys. When they needed a 4th person, they said, no, we can't have guys only. We need a woman.
A woman.
And that's
yes,
that's how they then asked me to preach. So it was not because the Lord revealed to them.
True.
It was because they needed a woman. And after preaching, it was a 10-minute sermon. It was not a long sermon. I prepared and I prayed, I preached, and I was shocked that I can actually preach.
Wow.
And I think from then onwards, people who were in the audience then started asking me to preach. And God, I think, just started putting that strong sense in my spirit and leading me to preach. And in 2002, I was then ordained as a pastor.
Okay.
And I always said I will never lead a church. I said that all my life.
Okay.
Until God started speaking to me about leading a church in 2016.
Okay.
And when God started speaking to me in 2016 about leading a church, I said, no, I want to be married first. Who's going to come to a church of a single woman?
Yes.
This doesn't make sense. At least God bring a man first, and then nobody has to know that the calling is mine.
Excuses, yeah.
But it didn't happen like that. Because I don't want to lie. I really waited to get married. It didn't happen. So when I speak to a lot of women who are pastors, they mention their challenges.
Okay.
And it's strange because a lot of those challenges, I don't have them.
Okay.
Men have sponsored my calling.
Okay.
Women have supported my calling.
Okay.
I mean, there are so many opportunities that I was given that I did not deserve, that I was given by men. There are so many doors that have been opened by other women.
Yes.
So I hear women speaking a lot about the discrimination they face in the church. I don't have that experience. I would be lying. My experience is a lot of people have gone out of their way to make room for my ministry. And I think you've heard me preach.
Yes.
Sometimes I can be quite unconventional, but people have just welcomed me and made room for me.
Wow.
So that has been my experience in the ministry.
I love it. And I'm encouraging other women out there, don't sit back and say you're waiting for your circumstances to be correct or perfect. Please make sure that you respond to your call if there is a call in your life. Mantsha, you will know that JJM Leadership Conversation aims at empowering people in the area of leadership. Yes, our conversation has been very, very much interesting. I want to just wrap up this conversation now by looking at your leadership philosophy. What drives you as a leader in society?
So the biggest thing for me is empowerment.
Okay.
In the same way that when I did not believe in myself, someone believed in me to the point that I borrowed that belief and ran with it and became the confident woman that I am today. Because I find that sometimes we want to lead people who are ready only. We don't want to invest ourselves in getting people empowered and getting them to a place where they can take up leadership. I mean, even in the church space, sometimes people want preachers who can preach. When I couldn't preach, people were giving me an opportunity. When I was not ready to manage, someone believed in me and invested themselves in getting me to be a good manager.
Wow.
So the key thing for me, every time when I work with people, my prayer is always, if I find you here, by the time you and I are done, at least be somewhere else.
You should have been empowered.
So the biggest thing I think, and I believe, if God grants me days that I still want to contribute in this world, is just to empower people to raise more leaders, not necessarily more followers, and then so that they in turn can raise more leaders. I believe as a society and as a continent, that is how we will go forward. Wow.
Mantsha, if we want to get hold of you and we also want to buy these books, can you just tell our viewers in terms of your social media platforms, in particular your email? I think that will help. Just share with our viewers your contacts.
So my website is mantsha.com. Everything is Mantsha actually.
Okay.
My email address is mantsha@mantsha.com. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Mantsha Pheeha. So if you just say LinkedIn, Mantsha Pheeha. So if you just search, I hope you'll remember this face. I think I look like this, even in social media. I'm generally quite active, so you can inbox me, you can ask for a friend request. I'm generally quite active there.
Wow, what a show and what a conversation. And thank you so very much for watching this episode. And thank you as well to my guest, Mantsha Pheeha, for making time to join with us in this leadership conversation. And I believe that you are empowered wherever you are. And her philosophy, as she indicated, is that empowerment is key. And at JJM Leadership Conversation, we also believe that we are empowering you to be a great, great leader. So keep on watching, share this video, like it if you do, and also tag other people that may appreciate this content. Thank you for watching. God bless and meet you at the top.